Introducing YouTube memberships, a fun way to support the channel while getting some exclusive perks. Click the join button to become a member now and get benefits like badges next to your name on videos, behind-the-scenes photos, advantages during the live trivia game, discounts on merchandise, private one-on-one video chats, the ability to request future video topics, and exclusive 8 to 10 minute videos on the history of the NFL. And now, on with our feature presentation. November 5th, 2023. It's week 9 of the NFL season, and we've got a game at Lambeau Field in the NFC between the Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers. For the Rams, as in the main subject in our story, this absolutely feels like a must-win game for them. This is a team that's been skinning pretty hard as of late, as after a 3-3 start to the season, they find themselves at 3-5 following a bad loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers and an uncompetitive loss to the Dallas Cowboys, where the score, which was 43-20, made it look a lot closer than it actually was. If you lose this game and drop to 3-6, your playoff chances are pretty much dead in the water barring a miracle, and you go into the bye week on a 3-game losing streak with no momentum on your side. However, to be fair to the Rams, even though they have to start their backup quarterback in Brett Rippon due to an injury to Matthew Stafford, they are playing one of the worst teams in football in the Green Bay Packers, who have lost 4 straight games and haven't won since the 24th night of September. They can absolutely win this one, right? Well, not quite. At least, it wasn't looking great at first, because in this ugly, low-scoring affair to start, the Packers led it 7-3 at the half. I'm just as shocked as you are that the Packers got a first-half touchdown. The good news for the Rams, though, is that despite trailing by 4 points in the halftime break, they get fantastic field position on the very first play from scrimmage of the second half. Just 2 minutes into the third quarter, and the Rams are in prime position to score, as they have the ball at the 29-yard line. At this point, anything less than 3 points would be a complete and utter failure. You have to walk away with something here. First down, and oof, that is not going to get it done. Back them up 5 yards after Royce Freeman gets absolutely nothing going on the ground. Second down, and Puka Nacua gets called for offensive pass interference. Back them up another 10 yards. Alright, this is bad. Now you've got 2nd and 25 at the 44-yard line, out of field goal range. Following an incomplete pass to bring up 3rd and 25, the Rams absolutely need to get some yards to get back into field goal range and have a shot at something. And while the bad news is that they're unable to pick up the 25 yards necessary for a first down, the good news is that the 8-yard gain by Darrell Henderson is enough to get them to the 36-yard line, making this a 54-yard try. Not easy by any means, and obviously not a great spot to be in after where this drive started and where you had it just a few minutes ago, but at least if you're this man right here, head coach Sean McVay, you have a chance to cut it to a 1-score game. With that, the Rams send their special teams unit out onto the field, and they're punting it. They're punting it. They're punting it? Why? Why would you punt the football? It's a 54-yard kick. Every team in football is trying this. You're in field goal range. You don't punt in field goal range. You don't punt in field goal range. Why are you punting the football? Why are you punting the football?
Yeah, that's a net punt of 20 yards.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something that looked bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something that looked awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there was no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're taking a look at the mind of Los Angeles Rams head coach Sean McVay. I cannot believe I'm saying this about McVay, but this season, perhaps no coach has fallen off of a cliff more from an in-game management standpoint than McVay has. He seems checked out. He seems done. he seems ready to retire and cash in a check with Amazon to join their Thursday Night Football team. Because my God, he is making decisions this season that he never would have made in previous years, and that are just absolutely baffling. From an in-game management standpoint, McVay is now up there with one of the worst coaches in the NFL, which is crazy to think about. Just this season alone, there was the atrocious 2-minute drill situation against the San Francisco 49ers that lacked all logic whatsoever in terms of the plays that were called and drawn up. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. There was the abysmal coaching on Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals that may have single-handedly cost his team that game. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And now, there's whatever the heck this decision was to punt the ball here. So with that being said, let's take a look at why bypassing a 54-yard field goal and punting the ball away instead of trying to cut into the deficit is a really bad idea. Now obviously, there are layers to this. It's like an onion. There are times where a punt here is probably the right idea, like if you're winning the game by 2 points with 10 seconds left, and if you miss the kick, you're giving the opposition great field position with a chance to get into field goal range to hit a game winner of their own with 1 or 2 seconds left. Or if your kicker straight up cannot hit a 54-yard field goal, either because of an injury, or because of the weather, or because he missed short from earlier in the game. As an example, if the Texans on Sunday try to field goal with Ogunbowale from 54 yards out, that would be the dumbest decision of the entire season. So in the end, it boils down to a simple question. An easy question, but a simple question nonetheless. Can your kicker actually hit a 54-yard field goal? Do you have reason to believe that he can hit from 54 yards out? Because barring any of those aforementioned exceptions, if he can hit a 54-yard field goal, and it's 4th and long, so going for it is completely out of the picture, you should absolutely try it. Punting the ball makes no sense if your kicker can hit that kick, because with a punt, you're gaining what? 20 yards of field position? With a touchback, a highly likely scenario in that spot, you're not even gaining that much. All the opposition needs is 1 first down to completely negate the effects of if you missed the field goal in the first place. So the risk and reward of trying a 54-yard field goal, especially when you need points because you're trailing and you have a chance to cut into the deficit, weighs heavily in favor of kicking it, because there's not really any logical explanation for not, seeing as the reward of getting 3 points and making it a 1-point game is significantly greater than the risk of giving up about 15 yards of field position. So with all of that in mind, let's look at the Rams kicker, Lucas Havrisik. Oddly enough, he tried a field goal in the first quarter from 52 yards out from the same exact side of the field. Let's take a look at that kick by Havrisik and see how he fared.
NFL debut last week. He drills it, and it is...
Oh, he made it. He made the kick. And he didn't just make it, he made it with relative ease. That kick was going to be good from 60, no doubt. So that raises the question, why didn't you try a 54-yard field goal here? It's the same side of the field, it's the same distance for all intents and purposes, and you opt to punt the ball instead? Did Havrisik's talent get sucked out midway through the game? Like this was a really bad football sequel to Space Jam? Where now he has no power in his leg? How can you see the situation at hand, see what Havrisik did earlier in the game from an identical spot, and then not do it again and attempt it? It's almost like if you have a teacher in back-to-back years for a certain subject. I had that happen to me before, as I had the same Spanish teacher for Honors Spanish in 11th grade and AP Spanish in 12th grade as a senior. Let's say that I had a professor in 11th grade and loved her. She was great. She taught a lot. She made the class engaging. I felt like I was developing my skills. I had no issue with the workload or her teaching methods, and she did her job fantastically. One of my all-time favorite teachers. Now, going into 12th grade, I see her on the schedule again. Nothing happens over the summer with her, and I immediately go to administration before the year starts and I say, I want to switch teachers because I don't trust her to do the job. I don't believe in her teaching abilities at all. She's terrible. I want to change, and I want someone else. Like, how would that make any sense? She did the job great the first time. I can clearly trust her. And now, she's being asked to do the job again. And I don't trust her, even though the situation is identical to the one before. How does that add up? And that's what this was like here. Sean McVay trusted his kicker to hit from 52 yards from that side of the field once already, and he made the kick with ease. Now, he's at an almost identical yard line on that same side of the field, and he doesn't trust him anymore, even though he did not attempt to kick in between that? Explain the logic to me here, please, because I am completely and utterly lost. And you might be saying, well, okay, maybe Havrick's first kick was a fluke. Maybe his leg isn't that strong in actuality. Well, let's look at some of his kicks when he was in college back in 2021 for the University of Arizona, where he set the school record for longest field goal, when he hit a 57-yard field goal. Scratch that, he hit 2 of them. He did it twice. So, yeah, so much for that theory. The man's got a leg. At the very least, he's got a leg that's good enough to reach from 54, seeing as throughout his entire career, he's done it many times before. And heck, he literally just about did it an hour ago. So I just don't get it, Coach McVay. I just don't get what your game plan is here. You need points. You have a kicker that can get you points. You have proven evidence that he can get you points and reach from that spot. And you opt not to do it? And obviously, in no way am I saying that a 54-yard field goal is a gimme, because that couldn't be further from the truth. But it is a kick that, in the NFL, barring anything insane, you try on 4th and long in a non-go-for-it situation 10 times out of 10. So why McVay thought otherwise, especially since no one dared to ask him about it in his 9-minute-long post-game press conference, because again, no reporter seems to actually care to talk about the game itself and some of the big decisions that went into it that changed the complexion of the outcome. I have no clue. Seriously, I've got no clue. But I'm baffled nonetheless. Completely and utterly baffled. And what's crazy about Sean McVay and just how stupid he was during the game between these two teams behind me right here is the fact that this decision on the field goal attempts where he punted the ball wasn't even the only dumb decision he made during this game. Seriously, I was this close to doing a video on a sequence that he had at the start of the game, when not even 3 minutes into the first quarter, on 3rd and inches, he decided to call a wide receiver jet sweep. Because that makes a ton of sense. You need 1 inch. The Packers have a 4-man front. They're inviting the quarterback sneak. It's a fail-proof play. And you decide to run laterally on a wide receiver jet sweep. Genius. Absolutely genius. Sean McVay has fallen off so hard this season. He's doing things that not even 2 years ago, I never thought in a million years that he of all people would do. This is like Chuck Noll in the mid-'80s and the late 80s, where he just completely fell off a cliff. That's what we're watching here, folks. Sean McVay has become that bad. So what do we learn from all of this? If you have a kicker and you don't trust him to hit a 54-yard field goal, barring very few exceptions, he should not be on the roster. If you have a kicker and he can hit a field goal from a certain distance, and it is a kick that literally every other team and kicker in the NFL would be attempting, then you attempt the kick. If you are trailing in a game and need to get points, and one option guarantees you a good shot at points, and the other option guarantees you no points, and the risk for not getting points in the first option is minimal compared to what will likely happen with the second option, then take the option that gives you a chance at points. And if you're the Rams, even though Sean McVay has been great for so many years, it might be time to start asking the tough questions about the coaching position. Because this in-game management all season has been absolutely brutal to watch. Because it defies all logic and is actively hindering your team's chances of winning games. Because when all of these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when the split backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jj9shop.com, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out a lot. Join me every Wednesday night where we'll play NFL Trivia for cash prizes at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. To learn more about the history of college football, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To learn more about the history of Major League Baseball, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 7. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.